Our reading from Luke this morning is hard. It is hard to hear, and it is hard to understand. Do you think I have come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, rather division. This seems out of character for the Jesus that we think we know. The Jesus who heals so many people. The Jesus who says, "Do not be afraid." The Jesus who speaks so gently to children and sinners alike. The Jesus who says, "Blessed are the meek." The Jesus who washes the feet of his friends. So I think it's important that we try to understand what Jesus is saying in these difficult passages in light of the whole of his ministry about mercy, compassion, and peace. We can't simply pluck this Jesus didn't come to bring peace, difficult stuff out of the whole as if it's completely separate from the rest of his message. Well, what about the part about families being divided? When I was young, I was taught that Jesus is saying here that believers in a household would be separated from non-believers. We would choose sides and fight with one another over who believed correctly and who didn't. And the believers would be, of course, on the right side, on God's side, and the non-believers, they might be cast out of the home if they weren't converted or changed or saved. But this reading is not about choosing sides within a family over who believes the correct thing or practices the right doctrine. Right belief is a modern concept, and that is not what Jesus is talking about. What Jesus is talking about are human institutions, like the family unit, specifically the Roman family unit, and its role in the institution of the Roman social structure. And he's saying that he has not come to validate them, but to model God's vision with its radical social reversals and its challenge of the status quo. Jesus is still preaching peace. He's addressing the difference between the way Roman society accomplishes peace and the way God does it. In speaking of the family unit as breaking apart, Jesus is targeting the heart of the Roman social system. Because remember, Jesus and his disciples are in Rome. Their region is occupied by the Roman Empire. And the family unit, being the building block of Roman society, their societal status is assigned to each generation of the family by the previous generation. So a father passes his familial status to his son. And the son endeavors to increase the status so that he may pass on a higher status to his son. And this sort of inheritance is passed from mother to daughter. And it's passed from mother-in-law to daughter-in-law. You see the pattern. Roman society is hierarchical. Say that 5 times fast. Hierarchical. That means that you got the emperor, and then you've got the Senate, and then you've got the wealthy voting class, and then you've got the working voting class, and then you've got slaves. And then you have people who aren't even mentioned as part of the hierarchy. You've got beggars and the poor and lepers and the homeless. Now within these large groups, these large classifications, people are ranked further by wealth or influence or by skill. And even slaves had a hierarchy. They had purchased slaves, they had indentured slaves, They had slaves that were captured in war, and all of these slaves had their own status or lack of status, and they were over or under one another in the pecking order. And if we charted it all out, Roman societal structure would look like a pyramid, with the emperor at the top, and these unmentioned people being crushed under the weight of the pyramid at the bottom. And Roman peace, this peace that Jesus is talking about breaking up, Roman peace is maintained by people knowing their place in the hierarchy and staying where they belong in the pyramid, achieving only acceptable upward mobility by pushing someone else down in the hierarchy. So here's the kind of the crux of Jesus' difficult message. God's societal structure is not hierarchical. God's peace is not maintained in a pyramid. The peace of God involves the establishment of proper relationships of mercy, compassion, and justice between God and humanity, not a hierarchy of wealth and familial status. Jesus, in his life and ministry, shows us how to live this lesson. As a human, born into his particular place and time, Jesus was assigned a spot on this pyramid of society. He wasn't a Roman citizen, so he wasn't near the top up here with the voters. But he was from a respectable family, and he was a member of a semi-protected religion, which gave him a higher status than slaves or those unmentioned people. And because he has a social status, he's got expectations, or there are expectations for him. He's a firstborn son. He should be learning his father's trade. He should participate in the family business. He should get married, have sons, increase his family's status if he can, perhaps petition for and purchase Roman citizenship. And then he should pass on all that he has earned to his firstborn son, die, and be buried with honor next to his forefathers. Now, we all know the story, and we know Jesus didn't do any of that. Jesus dives to the very bottom of the pyramid, to the underneath of the pyramid. And he embraces the people who are below the slaves, the unmentioned ones that are being crushed on the bottom of society. He heals them. And that allows them to get up off the bottom of the pyramid. And so we tend to think of Jesus' miracles as restoring people's physical well-being. But he was also restoring them to their place in society. Because a blind man in ancient Rome could only beg. He had no prospects for marriage, so no family, no sons. He couldn't work, so no money, no status. And by giving him sight, Jesus restores his potential for work and status, with a possibility that he might marry and have children. He can return to humanity and society. Jesus spends his ministry leveling the pyramid, freeing those on the bottom. One person at a time, from the bottom up, Jesus is dismantling the hierarchy of Rome. So what does this mean for us today? Well, our society is hierarchical. We live in a pyramid defined by money, material wealth, race, gender, lots of things. There is a hierarchy of peoples on our planet, a pyramid that tells us which people are desirable and which people are considered uncivilized. We hold these distinctions not only globally, but nationally, and even in our small community here in Casper. As humans born into this particular place and time, we have a place in the pyramid. And our places come with societal expectations. But as those who follow the example of Jesus, we also have God's expectations. And Jesus has shown us through his example that we are not meant to be sorted by status, judged and positioned by social standing. We are meant to combat the pyramid, not be agents of it, not be ruled by it, and certainly not to rest and enjoy our place in it. So here's the hard truth of it. Human systems, even those meant to achieve peace, are flawed because they're made by humans. In general, they seek a peace that favors those who hold positions of power, the top of the pyramid, at the expense of those who are powerless, those who aren't even mentioned, those being crushed under the pyramid. God's system for peace is perfect. And we are called to be agents of that peace, following the example that Jesus modeled for us. And the only way to do that is practicing mercy, compassion, and justice in God with the unmentioned ones, with the undesirable ones, with the ones who are considered uncivilized. Diving to the bottom of the pyramid and lifting up those who are being crushed by the weight of it. Amen.